Hello friends, good morning. Welcome to this new class again. Now let us come to another topic, that is sectors in terms of ownership, public and private sector. So let us see about the third type of division in this, that is called ownership, public and sector. Based on the ownership we can divide them into public and private. Based on the ownership. So based on the ownership we can divide them into public and private. Public and private. So another way of classifying economic activities into sectors could be on the basis of who owns assets and is responsible for the delivery of services. So we can say whether it belongs to whose responsibility, that is producing the things and delivering the things, or that is whose responsibility. Based on that we can call them public and private. Let's see. In the public sector, the government owns most of the assets and provides all the services. So, in the public sector, who is responsible for producing things and delivering the things? Government. Government is responsible. So, they will be the owner of the family. We know, so the owner of the factory. We know there are so many government offices, government factories, all that. All that is public. It comes under public because government is the owner and government will produce things and sell it to the public. Then in the private sector, ownership of assets and delivery of services is in the hands of private individuals or companies. So here, as the name says, private, it will belong to different private groups, private people. The owner of the company will be the private people and they will produce things and they will distribute it in the market and so on. So that belongs to the private individuals. For example, railways or post office is an example of public sector, whereas companies like Tata Iron and Steel Company Limited or Tisco or Reliance Industries Limited are privately owned. So we can say all the railways in the country, that is government country. But recently in the news we heard that government is going to privatize the railways. That means the ownership may be handed over to the private individuals. So in our country soon the railway may become private. Government is planning to sell it to the private individuals or private companies. So at present it is under government, but government recently announced they are going to sell it to the private. So the present government is going on selling a lot of public sector companies to the private. Maybe the government has become poorer and poorer, so to run the country they need money, therefore they are selling it and making it private. With that money they may go on for some more time. Afterwards they may have nothing more to sell and we do not know what will they sell later or how will they survive later. So that is a pathetic condition that our country is going through now. Now some of the examples of private sector is like Tata Iron and Steel Company Limited. You know Tata, Ratan Tata's company, that is private. He is managing by himself. Then Reliance Industries by Ambani Group. They are running, that is private. So all these are examples of private, and all the other railway, and the airport, aeroplane, airlines, post office, all these are run by the government. So to get such services we have to pay money to these individuals. So activities in the private sector are guided by motive to earn profits. So why do these private people start companies? To get more profit. So their intention is to get more profit. So they will try to give the best service so that they can get more money from the people. If the service is poor, people will not buy and they will lose. So the private companies, their motive is to get maximum profit, therefore they will try to give the best service. So if you go to a government office or a private office, which one you will get more service, more good service? The government office, if you go, they may be eating pan and smoking cigarette and sitting and sleeping or calling phone, and they will be sitting there. They don't bother people come or not come because they know they will get their salary. But if you go to a private office, you will find they will be so happy to welcome you. They will say good morning, please sit, and what is your problem, how can I help you? So they will give best service in the private sector because they need more customers, they need more profit. That's the difference between private and public and private. So their motive is to make profit. Therefore, they will try to give the best service and they will be trying to get money from the customers. So if you want to buy something from the government, for example, the postman is giving you letter, postal service, you don't have to pay money for the post office to the postman, but you need to pay little stamp money, that is enough. But if there are so many private companies are there, courier service and other telegram services and so on. So if it is private, online business, all that, so you need to pay more because they give prompt service or they are motivated by profit. Therefore, you need to pay them more. And the purpose of the public sector is not just to earn profits. So here, the public sector is not just earn profit but for service. Government raise money through taxes and other ways to meet expenses on the services rendered by it. So government does not take much money for these public services. Then how do they manage? Because the money we are paying as a tax, when we buy everything, it is written there MRP, maximum retail price. So in that, tax also is included. Every item that we buy from the market, we are paying certain percentage as a tax. If you buy 1 liter of diesel or petrol from the market, the actual price comes only just 30 or 35 rupees. But we are paying 65 rupees, we are paying 62 rupees, or sometimes it comes up to 70 rupees and so on. So the rest of the money is a tax. The actual price is only just 30 and 30, between 30 35 and so on. But now it may be even much less. So government is collecting tax from the people for different items. So that tax money is used for doing all these services, paying tax, paying money for all this. So don't just think that we are getting free service. The money that is needed, that is paid from the customers. It is taken from us, the public people. So every government officer who is sitting in the office, he should not think that he is getting money from the government. But government is taking money from the people and paying them salary. So we have every right to get good service from the government. They cannot just do what they like. They have got the right to, we have got the right to demand a good service from them because we are paying them money through our taxes. Then modern day government spends on a whole range of activities. What are these activities and why do government spend on such activities? Let us find out. So in the modern day activities, we find government is taking up a lot of activities. Government is doing a lot of works. Let us see what is the purpose behind. Why do the government do all these things? There are several things needed by the society as a whole, but which the private sector will not provide at a reasonable cost. So, why do the government is taking up important things in our country? Like airlines. Airlines also private, lot of privates are there. So, what is the difference between the private sector, the public sector and the private sector? Government tries to take up all the important things by itself, not willing to give to the private. They want to do it by themselves. What is the reason? Reason is, private means they are oriented by profit. So they will increase, they will give best service but they will increase the rate. Therefore, they will get more profit. But when they increase, the ordinary people or the poor people, they cannot afford. They will be struggling to meet all that expenses. Therefore, they need public service. What is for essential service? They need to go and do it with the government. That's why government is taking up all these important activities by itself, not giving to the private. So some of these need spending large sums of money which is beyond the capacity of the private sector. So another reason is the private sector may not be able to invest so much of money, because to set up all these public companies and other things, they need plenty of money. So government has got good amount of money in their hands, so they are able to do it. But private people, they don't have enough money. Therefore, they are not able to do it. So government has to do it. Also, collecting money from thousands of people who use facilities is not easy. Even if they do provide these things, they would charge a high rate for their use. Examples are construction of roads, bridges, railways, harbors, generating electricity, providing irrigation through dams, etc. Thus, governments have to undertake such heavy spending and ensure that these facilities are available for everyone. So some of the common utilities or some of the common facilities, for example, we can say railway, bridges or roads, or producing electricity, providing irrigation facility to the farmers, all these. So they cannot be given to the private people. The private people will be finding it difficult because it needs a huge infrastructure and it needs huge amount of capital, and therefore the private people may not be able to do it. So government takes initiative to do all these things, to take up all this so that it can be supplied to the farmers, to the poor people, and to make it available to everyone. If it is private people, the cost will be very high and only rich people will be able to use it. But government brings down the expense or the cost, therefore everyone can afford it. They will be able to use it. And there are some activities which the government has to support. The private sector may not continue their production or business unless government encourages it. So, if the private sector has to do something, then they have to get permission from the government, otherwise they cannot. So, they will get permission from the government and then they will do it. And for example, selling electricity at the cost of generation may push up the cost of production of industries. And many units, especially small-scale units, might have to shut down. The government here steps in by producing and supplying electricity at a rate which these industries can afford. Government has to bear the part of the cost. So, for example, let us say, suppose the electricity production is done by the government and supplied by the government. Suppose if it is given to the private company, they will produce electricity and they will sell it to others, the industries, to the families, to the other offices and so on. And they will be selling it, they will calculate to produce electricity how much money I have spent. Then to supply, I have to put post, I have to pull the wire, how much expense will come. Then there are officers are there, I have to pay them salary. So they will calculate all that, then they will say 1 unit of electricity you have to pay this much. Then that will be very high, the price will be very high. And small industries, small factories, and they will find difficult to pay this much money because they are not getting so much of profit. Therefore, they will find it difficult and they will have to close down their industry, their factory, everything. And so government does not give production of electricity to the private. Government itself takes, though the production charges are very high, government does not sell it to the consumers for that same price. Government will reduce the price so that it will be affordable to others. Other people also will be able to take it. That is how government is helping the people. Government will reduce the cost. So that extra expense will be taken by the government and the people will have to pay less. That way, those industries, those people running the shops and other factories, they will be able to survive. If it is given to completely to the private, then the small families, small industries, small business people, they all will not be able to bear the cost, and slowly they will close all their shops and businesses, everything. Then similarly, the government in India buys wheat and rice from farmers at a fair price. It stores in its godown and sells at a lower price to consumers through ration shops. You have read about this in chapter on food security in class 9. I hope you remember we were discussing so much about food security, how government is buying the extra corn from the people, extra grain from the people, and store up in the godown. And when the need comes, government will distribute to the poor people through the fair price shops or ration shops and so on. So that also is done by the government, not for profit. Government will buy from the original price from the farmers, and then they will sell it to the poor for a lower price. So government is not getting any profit there. They are only helping the poor people by reducing the expenses. So if it is given to the private, then they will buy from the farmers. For example, let us say 1 kg 10 rupees. Then they have to transport it, they have to pay salary to the employees, and so when they sell, they may be taking more rupees. So they may sell for 15 rupees. But in the case of government doing this work, they will buy from the people for 10 rupees. Then they may reduce 2 rupees and they sell it for 8 rupees. So because government is not working for profit, but private is working for profit. That is the difference between private and the public. So government will be always trying to make it cheaper so that they can help the people. So in this way, the government supports both farmers and consumers. That is the main purpose, main duty of the government, to support the farmers and the consumers. Then there are a large number of activities which are the primary responsibility of the government. So there are so many works are there which only the government can do. Only the government has to take up the responsibility. And the government must spend on this. Providing health and education facilities for all is another example. So there is another example which the government has to take care, providing health facility and education facility. That is, it is the duty of the government to provide good hospitals with good facilities so people can get treatment for their sicknesses. Or education facilities, government has to set up schools, colleges, universities and so on. So that is also there in the private. But you know which one is expensive. If you are going to private school or private colleges, the fee is very high. If you go to public college or government college, then the fee is very less. So that is the difference in service. They may give better service, but they will charge you more. The poor people cannot afford that. So therefore, the poor, in order to help the poor people and the poor consumers, the government has to help them. Then we have discussed some of these issues in the first chapter. Then running proper schools and providing quality education, particularly elementary education, is the duty of the government. India's size of illiterate population is one of the largest in the world. So we said earlier, how many people are uneducated in India? Between 6 to 14 years of age, there are thousands of students. 1/3 of the population is uneducated. They do not go to the school. Either they go to the field to work with their parents, or they simply sit at home, or they go to the streets for picking out waste, rags, papers, bottles and so on. So many students are there. So those students in India who are not going to school, their population is very high comparing to other countries. So government has to come forward, take extra initiative in order to help these people. Similarly, we know that nearly half of India's children are malnourished and a quarter of them are critically ill. Another serious problem that India faces is most of the students in India or children in India, they are malnourished. They are not getting proper nourishment. They are not getting proper good food. They are not able to get good food, and therefore they will be sick. They will have bad health and so on. We have read about infant mortality rates. The infant mortality rate of Orissa or Madhya Pradesh is higher than that of poorest regions of the world such as African countries. So in some states like Bihar or Orissa, if you go, the infant mortality rate is very high. After giving birth, the child dies within 1 year. They don't even survive for 1 year. So out of 1000 children born, in Orissa, 85 of them are dying. Then if you go to Madhya Pradesh, 85 of them are dying. So if you go to African countries, so many deaths of the children may not be there. So some of the states in India are worse than the poor African nations. So the government really needs to step in, provide health facilities, provide nutritious food to the poor people. Then government also needs to pay attention to aspects of human development such as availability of safe drinking water, housing facilities for the poor and the food and nutrition. So government will have to make sure there is good water supply for drinking, safe water supply for drinking, and there is good living facilities, house facilities. Government should not allow the people to settle down in the slums where the atmosphere is very bad or where there is air pollution and so on. Government should provide good facility to the people so that they will be growing up as healthy persons. Then it is also the duty of the government to take care of the poorest and the most ignored regions of the country through increased spending in such areas. So government has to identify which part of India is very weak. For example, we said in Madhya Pradesh and Orissa, infant mortality is very high. That means children are not able to get proper medical care, not able to get proper nutritious food, and therefore the children are dying. So government should concentrate in such poor backward areas and should set up good hospitals and should provide or supply food through the ration shops, fair price shops and so on, so that those poor children also can survive not just 1 year but many more years, and they will become an asset to the nation. So it is all the responsibility of the government. So they should start more public sector units, more hospitals, more schools, more ration shops and so on. But unfortunately our government is thinking everything about giving to the private and making the poor people to suffer. So we pray that it may not happen, but government may take initiative and start helping the people to support the poor and so on. So that is all about in this lesson. Since it is the last part of the lesson, we took a little extra time. I hope you don't mind it. So we can divide people who are working in the economic sectors based on their activities. First we said we can divide them into 3: primary, secondary and tertiary. Then based on the nature of the work people are doing, we can say they are working on organized sector or unorganized sector. Or we can, based on the ownership, we can say either they belong to public sector or private sector. So here the public sector units are very important. They can do much more than what the private sector is doing. So the government has to take initiative, and then the poor people will be able to benefit. So in short, let us say what is the summary of this lesson. So in this chapter we have looked at ways of classifying economic activities into some meaningful groups. One way of doing this is to examine whether the activity relates to the primary, secondary or tertiary sector. Or the data for India for the last 30 years shows that while goods and services produced in the tertiary sector contribute the most to GDP. So we already said that the people who are working in the tertiary sector and the secondary sector, they are the one contributing more to the growth of the country. Though the number of people working in this sector are less, but they are contributing more to the growth of the country. And the employment remains in the primary sector. We have also seen what all can be done for increasing employment opportunities in the country. Another classification is to consider whether people are working in organized or unorganized sectors, and most people are working in the unorganized sectors, and protection is necessary for them. We also looked at the difference between private and public activities and why it is important for public activities to focus on certain areas. So these are the things that we discussed in this lesson, and I hope you understood. You read nicely again and again, and if you have any doubts, you can feel free to ask me, question me in my WhatsApp number. I will be always happy to help you or explain to you personally the points that you have not understood. Now let us see a few exercises. The next page, fill in the blanks. The first one, what is the answer? The employment in the service sector does increase to the same extent as production. What is the answer? Has not increased. Second one, workers in the dash sector do not produce goods. Which sector is not producing goods? Primary, secondary or tertiary? Yes, tertiary sector. They are producing only service, not goods. Then number 3. Most of the workers in the dash sector enjoy job security. So which sector people are enjoying job security? Organized or unorganized? Organized. Then number 5. Number 4. A large proportion of laborers in India are working in the unorganized sector. Large or small? Yes, large. Large number of people are, large proportion of laborers working in unorganized sector. Then number 5. Cotton is a large product and cloth is a large product. So cotton is a natural product. Then cloth is a manufactured product. Then number 6. The activities in primary, secondary and tertiary sectors are independent or interdependent? Interdependent. Then choose the most appropriate answer. Number A. The sectors are classified into public and private sector on the basis of number 3. Ownership of enterprises. Then question number B. Production of a commodity mostly through the natural process is an activity in dash sector. Which sector? Production through natural process, that is primary sector. The number C. GDP is the total value of dash produced during the particular year. Value of, answer is 2. All final goods and services. Then number D. In terms of GDP, the share of tertiary sector in 2003 is dash. What is the answer? Number 3. Between 50% to 60%. That is the share of GDP. Then number 3. Match the following. The first group it is problems faced by farming sector. And the second one it is some possible measures. So we have to match the proper one. So first problem is unirrigated land. That is a problem faced by some farmers. Unirrigated land. What is the solution? Solution is number D. Construction of canal by the government. So government has to construct canal and make sure the water is reaching to them. Then second, low prices for crops. Low prices for crops. And the answer is, what the government can do? Number C. Procurement of food grains by the government. So government has to buy the food grains from the people and give, then farmers will get good price. Then number 3 is debt burden. So when there is a debt burden, people are taking loan and not able to give back. What can the government do? Number E. So banks to provide credit with low interest. So government should start or set up banks which will supply loan to the farmers with a low interest. So that will be better, then there will not be much burden on them. Then number 4, no job in the off season. No job in the off season. Then what can the government do? So number A, setting up agro-based mills. So government can start mill which is based on the agriculture products. So maybe producing sugar from the sugar cane, or maybe making yarn from the cotton. So government should start a mill so that those people can work. After their work in the field, they can work in this factory. Then number 5, compelled to sell their grains to the local traders soon after harvest. So they are forced to sell their things because there is no place to store up. So what can the government do? Number B, cooperative marketing society. So government should set up some marketing societies so that they can buy the things from the farmers and give them good price. Otherwise the farmers will continue to suffer. Then next one, number 4, find the odd one out and say why. So there are different words are given there and we have to find out which one is separate from that group and we have to say the reason. So the first one says tourist guide, dhobi, tailor, potter. So there are different people are there doing different works. Some are doing tourist guide, some are doing dhobi, some are doing tailor, another one is doing potter. Which one is the odd one? Tourist guide. What service he is doing? Tertiary, isn't it? Doing tertiary service. Then dhobi is doing service, washing clothes. Then tailor is doing service. He is stitching the clothes. Then another one is potter. He is making pot. So all the other ones are tertiary, and the last one is in the primary sector. He is using the soil, is using the mud and making pot. So potter is the odd one that belongs to the primary sector. Then second, doctor, teacher, vegetable vendor and lawyer. So here which one is odd? Teacher, doctor and lawyer, they are working in the tertiary sector, and vegetable vendor is doing in the primary sector. He is selling the vegetable because that is from the nature and that does not need formal education as well. So all are doing service here. Teachers, doctors, vegetable vendors and lawyer, they are all doing service. But here one who is selling the vegetable, he does not need education, he can just go it. All other ones need proper education and proper training. Then postman, cobbler, soldier, police constable. So here also all are working in the tertiary sector, like postman, cobbler, soldier, police constable and so on. So postman is working in government sector or public sector. Soldier also public sector, and police constable, they are also working as a constable in the public sector. But another person, cobbler, one who is repairing the shop, he is not working under public, he is private. That is the difference. Then MTNL, Indian Railways, Air India, Sahara Airlines, All India Radio. So here also we come across all these are companies based on ownership. So only the Sahara Airlines, that is by private. All the other ones are public. That is the difference. So odd one is Sahara Airlines. Then next one is number 5. Place of work or nature of employment. and percentage of working people. So if you fill in the blanks, we have to do it. So in offices and factories registered with the governments. So people who are working in the offices and factories that are registered by the government, what kind of work will be they be doing? Is it organized or unorganized? Certainly it will be organized sector, because it is registered with the government and they have to follow all the government rules. And the percentage of the people are 15.15. Then on shops, office, clinics, in marketplaces with a formal license. So people who are starting shops, offices and clinics in the marketplaces or in the town with a formal license, getting license from the government. So people who are working there also will be organized people. It is an organized sector. They are, since it is following the government rules and regulations, they will get all the facilities and privileges. And around 15% of the people are working there. Then people working on the streets, construction workers, domestic workers and so on. So those people, what sector are they working? Organized or unorganized? People who are working on the street, construction workers, domestic workers and so on. Are they getting any government privileges? Are they getting pension? No. They are working in the unorganized sector. They work, they get their pay. Or sometimes it may be delayed, sometimes it may be very low and so on. So around how many percentage are working there? 20% of the people are working in this kind of unorganized sector. Then working in small workshops, usually not registered with the government. So there are many people who are working in the small factories and workshops that are not registered with the government. And that will belong to what sector? Organized or unorganized? That also will belong to unorganized sector. They don't get any protection from the government and so on. So they also will be under working as unorganized sector. Can you say how many percentage of people will be working there? How many percentage of people will be working in this category? Working in small workshops, usually not registered with the government and so on. See, total how many percentage we have already. First one is 15%, second one is also 15%, and then the third one we said it is 20%. So 15 plus 15 plus 20, how many already? 50 already, isn't it? Then what will be the balance percentage? Total is 100, so 50 already we completed. Then the rest will be 50. So 50. So people who belong to this category, working in small workshops and usually not registered with the government, they are also 50%. So that is the situation in our country when we deal with economic, the different sectors of the economy. So we have completed this lesson and I will be giving you the class notes as well. So try to write it down in your notebooks and send me the copy of that, the photo of that, and also you will learn the lessons nicely. Study, try to understand and study, not just by hearting and studying, but try to understand and study. Then it will remain in your mind and it will be easy for you to recollect again at the time of exams. So thank you for listening. Have a nice day.